Hello and welcome to another issue of East County Now. This is where we talk about issues in East Multnomah County, Troutdale, Fairview, Wood Village, Gresham, East Portland, Corbett, all those areas. Well, we haven't covered them all yet, but we will. Today, we're going to be talking about some issues in Troutdale because, hey, it's my show and I live in Troutdale. I'm going to take the prerogative and talk about my hometown today, my lovely hometown, Troutdale. We love Troutdale. Speaking of We Love Troutdale, I moderate a Facebook page called We Love Troutdale. And topic one today has to do with that page. Topic one is racism in Troutdale, the Junkie Yoshida saga. As I mentioned, I moderate a Facebook page called We Love Troutdale. Back in October, during the election comments, many people posted really hatred and animosity posts. Thinly veiled racism was in these posts toward businessman Troutdale Junkie Yoshida. Now their comments were in response to an article on OregonLive.com. That's the Oregonians' website. These comments were in response to an article on that website about accusations by Troutdale City Council candidates Rich Allen and David Ripma that Troutdale Junkie resident Junkie Yoshida was attempting to influence this election. Now I want to make clear that neither Mr. Ripma or Mr. Allen said anything racist remarked at all, but the article was about the accusations. But the comments in the Facebook page that I have were horrible. Hatred, animosity, thinly veiled racism, what these comments were filled with. I had no choice but to delete the comments. I'm all for freedom of speech, but that sort of comment was just uncalled for, and they were offensive. Come on, the Facebook page was called We Love Troutdale, and believe you me, the people who posted these hate-filled things clearly do not love Troutdale or their fellow Troutdalians. Now, this wasn't the first time racism has raised its ugly head in Troutdale recently. It was about this time last year, December 13th, at the City Council meeting in Troutdale, Mr. Yoshida was verbally attacked by audience members in the City Council chambers after he made a business proposal to the Troutdale City Council. Now, Mr. Yoshida was not attacked because of the content of his business proposal. No, he was attacked because of the color of his skin. He was verbally attacked with a racial slur at that meeting. He was attacked not for his business proposal, but because of his ethnic heritage. Now, in the past, Troutdale business people have made other public-private partnerships and developments with the city of Troutdale. But people were silent when a business person named Max Maydew basically constructed the entire north side of Troutdale, the downtown area. But people responded with racial slurs when a business person named Yoshida proposed development in Troutdale. People were silent when the business name was Bremick Construction, who will be constructing new office space, new residential space, and retail space in downtown Troutdale shortly. Nobody said anything about their heritage, but people responded with personal attacks when the business person was named Yoshida. It makes me wonder, what if Junkie Yoshida's name was John Smith? You know, I was ashamed of these comments that were made at that city council meeting by my fellow Troutdalians. I was ashamed to read those comments made by my fellow Troutdalians on the Facebook page. I witnessed Troutdale citizens not displaying inclusion and acceptance, but instead displaying intolerance and racism. And I was ashamed of my city and my city council as I watched that city council meeting last year. Instead of hearing my fellow Troutdalians speak out against this hateful language, I heard only silence, not only from the people in the audience, but from the city council. So fellow Troutdale residents, I want to ask you, shall we slowly sink into silence in the face of hateful and racist comments? Or should we take a stand? Fellow Troutdale residents, let's make a strong stand against racism in our city. Let's make a determined stand against racism in our city. Let us unite against racism in our city, because we must say no to racism now. We must say no to racism in the future. We must say no to racism always. Here's my next topic: public art and the Troutdale budget. At a recent city council meeting, I think it was the last one in December, some artists asked the Troutdale City Council to donate $160,000 for some sort of monument to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the historic Columbia River Highway. $160,000. You know what my first reaction was when I heard that? Wow! Are you kidding me? Let's say I didn't want a monument for the city myself. Let's say I wanted to go to the city council, but I didn't want a monument. Let's say I wanted the city to pay for my food, for my clothing, my housing, shelter. Let's say I asked the city of Troutdale to pay for all of those things. You know, governments do pay for that sort of thing. They pay for clothing, housing, food, that sort of thing. You know what they call it? It's called public assistance. It's called welfare. So if the city pays $160,000 to some artist for a monument commemorating the historic Columbia River Highway, that would by definition be public assistance for artists. Yeah, it would be called welfare for artists. And let's get one thing straight here. If they're asking for $160,000 for this project, you know darn well, if you want the real number, just double it. That's how government projects work. So the real cost would be over $300,000, and I'll give you an example of why there's a track record of that in Troutdale. Let's ask you this question. Would this art project, a commemoration of the Columbia River Highway, would this benefit Troutdale's 15,000 citizens? Or would it benefit an artist who did this? One person versus 15,000 people. It's very clear this wouldn't benefit the citizens of Troutdale. It certainly would benefit the artists. And a matter of fact, I think one of the artists said, hey, let's do this project because we have a new artist and he needs some work to generate from experience. It would be really nice if Troutdale, you could give him this project to give him a head up. The project would benefit one person, the artist, sure. There's no way it would benefit Troutdale. That's why we shouldn't do it. Let me put this in perspective another way. I'm going to tell you a story. When my wife and I first moved to Troutdale, Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, I had to knock on the door very early in the morning. There was a big windstorm the night of Thanksgiving, and it was worse than the usual daily 30, 40 mile an hour wind in Troutdale. My neighbor said, hey, I just wanted to let you know, Rob, there's some damage on your roof. You're missing a bunch of shingles, a lot of damage. I went outside to look, and it was true. Our roof was damaged, shingles gone, damage on the roof, and I looked around some of my other neighbors' yards. We all had damage on our roofs. And thankfully, my good neighbor who notified us of this had his roofer there already fixing his roof, and he was kind enough to offer that roofer services to us. Came across a dilemma. After Thanksgiving, of course, comes Christmas, and I was looking forward to buying lots of nice gifts for our family, and I really was thinking about buying my wife a nice watch. You know, I loved her. I wanted to give her a nice present for Christmas. So I was faced with a choice. Do I buy nice presents for my family and a nice expensive watch for my wife? Or do I fix the roof? You know what I did? You know what I did. I fixed the roof. We paid for the roof. Now, as a contrast to that, let's see what the Troutdale City Council did regarding the arch. Did you know that the Troutdale Arch was originally budgeted for a mere $80,000? You know what the final cost to the city was? Over $300,000. The City Council didn't have $300,000 to build this arch, so you know what they did? They borrowed the money from their Parks Development Fund, and they're still paying this loan back at $30,000 per year. They're still paying back this loan because they didn't have the money. And it's troubling to me because the city knew at the time they were going to have to replace the city hall. They knew it. And instead of setting aside $30,000 a year from the general fund, putting it aside and saving towards a new city hall, what did they do? Well, I didn't buy the watch. I fixed the roof. The city council, they did not put aside money for the new city hall. Basically what they did is they bought themselves a new piece of jewelry. They bought themselves the arch. So let me ask you, my fellow Troutdalians, I'm going to ask you a question. In view of the city's decision to pay for a $300,000 arch, instead of setting aside money for a new city hall, how much are you going to be willing to pay more taxes in the future to build a new city hall? That's a question. Because let's face it, to build a new city hall in the future, the city of Troutdale is going to have to come to you, the taxpayer, and ask for the money to build it in the form of some sort of bond measure. And that's a tall order. It's not highly successful. There's no track record at all in Troutdale of those kinds of things being successful. For instance, if you look at the one loss record for the city of Troutdale for money-related bond measures and levies since 1979, they have a record of 3 wins and 5 losses. From 1979 to this recently when they passed the Troutdale city police station bond, that's 8 elections for money that they've asked for the citizens. They've only won 3 of them. 3 and 5 is not a good record. And now it's not a good prediction of the future for voter approval of new taxes, but in light of how they're spending money on things like public art, $300,000 here, $300,000 there, doesn't make any sense. Which segues me to topic number 3, Troutdale's lack of goals and vision and understanding of priorities. Really, art versus public safety, it's a no-brainer. Art versus no public sewer and water and roads, it's a no-brainer. Let's ask ourselves some question. What's the local government qualified to provide? What do they need to provide? And how do they offer the maximum benefit to citizens for their tax dollars that they're paying? Number 2, what is the essential services that the city must provide and what does it cost? And number 3, what sort of services should the city be considered getting out of business of? For instance, paying for gigantic parks and art projects. Because here's the fact. Here's what we're talking about. Local taxpayers, you and me, we don't have unlimited money to give to finance an unlimited amount of government expenditures. There's just only so much money to go around. You know, economist Thomas Sowell, he's a pretty wise man. He puts it this way. He says, what does scarce mean? It means that what everybody wants adds up to more than there is. And there has never been enough to satisfy everybody completely. So, let's ask yourself this question. What government products and services on the local level do you consider to be absolutely essential? Well, here's my list. Number 1 is public safety. That is the most prime reason for government is to protect its citizens from harm. Public safety, police, keep our citizens safe. Public safety, fire, protect ourselves from fire. Emergency services, EMTs, that sort of thing. That is number 1 on my priority list. That is an essential service of government. Number 2 on my list is public works. Other things that keep people safe. The roads kept maintained so they're safe to drive on. Water, the facilities are maintained so we have safe water to drink. It's clean and safe to drink. Sewer, our sewer system is maintained to keep the public safe from sewage, from the sewage, yeah. Now public works, you know, they keep the roads passable. They make it possible for us to go from point A to point B safely. They take care of our public lands like our parks. That is essential service to me. They make our public buildings compatible and habitable. Now keep in mind that our city, like other government entities, we own lots of public property, city halls, office buildings, maintenance buildings, sewer plants, all that stuff. It needs to be maintained and in good order because it's an investment. You know, if you don't keep care of these things like roads and water facilities, they degrade and we lose our investment if they're not taken care of. That's an essential service. Number three, the third thing I think is high priority is our parks. We Troutdalians, we love our parks, and I think it's part of public safety. And it's a livability issue, but it's public safety. If you've got families and kids got someplace to go to play, it just makes our town safer if we've got a place to play, and keeps people off the streets. We need our parks. It's part of livability, but it's also part of public safety. So let's talk about priorities and essential services. Where does the Troutdale Arch, which costs $300,000, or the proposed Columbia River Highway Centennial, which will probably cost more than $160,000, where does those two projects come into the definition of essential, or even the conversation of essential, when you stack it up with public safety, police, fire, roads? Where does it stack up? It doesn't stack up. Those things, to me, would come into the definition of non-essential. This is my definition, really, of bloat and waste of tax dollars. Some people may disagree with me, and if we had a lot more money to spend, I might be able to see your point, but we only have so much to spend, and we have to prioritize our money to essential services. I don't see art projects as essential. I do see them as bloat and a waste of money. Now, the essence of my argument about essentials and priorities is realistically, and let's be realistic here, determining what we as a community can live with and what we can live without. That's what it's all about. What do we absolutely need? What can we do without? We need our roads. We can do without public art projects. This is what I'm talking about. We as a community need to know exactly what we can live and live without, and then we need to elect people on the city council who share those values with us. Now, as much as possible, I think I'm not alone in saying I want local government to stay out of my pocket as much as is possible. And I'm happy to pay, like everyone else, I'm happy to pay a reasonable amount of taxes for police, for fire, for emergency services. And I'm happy to pay, more than happy to pay, a reasonable amount of taxes for water service, sewer service, roads, and parks. But my way of thinking is any elected official who votes public money for jewelry like a centennial monument to the Columbia Highway, the historic Columbia River Highway, they should be shown the door at the next election. And voters who fail to decide which candidates are like this, you basically get what you vote for. Topic 4, local control and giving away of parks and police. You might be thinking, what are you talking about? Giving away Troutdale's parks and police? Yeah. Local control, what does that mean? What does local control to mean? What does it mean to be a city in East Multnomah County? It means local control, what it means. So we're talking about things like we can't afford our police department, so the city of Troutdale wants to give away the police department and have it taken over by Multnomah County. We can't afford road maintenance. They're saying, hey, we can't afford our roads. We need $400,000 a year for maintaining our roads. We're not paying that kind of money. What's up? Are we going to give our roads to Multnomah County because we can't afford them too? Well, I'll tell you, Multnomah County doesn't want our roads. So how are we going to pay for that? We can't afford to maintain our parks. This is what the city tells us. We can't afford to maintain our parks. What's next? Giving up our parks to a Parks and Recreation taxing district? Well, that's exactly what Mayor Doust suggested at a recent city council meeting. So really, what does it mean to be a city in East Multnomah County? And these sorts of things we're talking about are these kinds of decisions, giving away our parks, our police, Is that the sort of thing we want to put in the hands of our elected officials, or should these things be something we vote on? Yeah, I think we should vote on them. Now, you might be surprised that Troutdale, some people in Troutdale, including Mayor Doust, went to give away our parks, but that's true. Early October, there was a city council meeting, and Troutdale Mayor Doug Doust introduced a proclamation that would, quote, recognize the Springwater area and its regional environmental designation, and support of volunteer efforts to protect our way of life, blah, 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 reflect activities and growth in our local economy. And Mayor Doust invited Kathy Sherrick from a group promoting the Springwater Parks and Community District to explain what the proclamation was about. Well, the proclamation was a bunch of flowery words about healthy outdoor growth, citizen health and well-being. And Sherrick said she was only there to get the city to buy off on that flowery proclamation. But if you read the packet that the city council was given, it gave all the real stuff that was going on with the so-called proclamation. And the meeting became heated when several councilors objected to the proclamation because it was the first time they had heard of it, that meeting. And a majority of the city councilors spoke against it because they needed more facts. Now, in spite of both Sherrick and Mayor Doust admitting once or twice that what they really wanted was to form a new taxing district, a parks taxing district, and that is what was actually in the documents that the city council was given, not a proclamation. Both Sherrick and Doust said in one breath, no, we're not talking about a taxing district. The next breath, they said the opposite. Yeah, we're talking about a taxing district. It wasn't snowing that day, but I detected a snow job there. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't object to anybody proposing a new parks district. It never hurts to talk about new ideas and proposals, but Mayor Doust, Ms. Sherrick, give me a break. Who do you think you're kidding by insisting you're only there to talk about flowery concepts and flimsy declarations? How about just putting on the table, yeah, Troutdale citizens, I want a taxing district. I want to give away our parks. Just out and out say it. Mayor Doust and Sherrick, they both told us what they wanted. They want a new parks taxing district, and they want that district to take away Troutdale's parks out of the control of Troutdale and increase the taxes for Troutdale residents. Troutdale City Councilor Wilson, he laid it on the line. This is the obvious. Well, if we want to increase our parks maintenance, why don't we just raise the parks fees ourselves? We don't need a special taxing district to say that. Many of you may not be aware that the Troutdale police, they're also talking about giving it to the Multnomah County. The merger that they're talking about basically goes like this. Troutdale says, hey, we don't have the money to fully staff our police department. Troutdale, we're desperate for some cash, so what do? Multnomah County Sheriff says, hey, we've got loads of services that the Troutdale police could use. And the merger would create new efficiencies and eliminate some inefficiencies, and we could save Troutdale $800,000 a year. You know what Eric Mueller said? The proposal was well organized and high in concept and short on numbers. In addition, what really concerns me about a merger between the Police Department of Troutdale and Multnomah County Sheriff is this would not be a merger. This would be a takeover. Troutdale's police budget is like this. Multnomah County's police budget is like this. And think about this. Multnomah County, our representative, Diane McKeel, she's done a great job representing us in East Multnomah County. However, the rest of the county commissioners have a track record of they don't really care about Gresham, Wood Village, Troutdale, Fairview. They don't. They see us usually as nothing more than an annoying stick of gum that got stuck on the bottom of their Birkenstocks. We would lose local control. They wouldn't listen to us. So Troutdale residents, do you really want to lose local control of your police department? Are we really that desperate for money? We're willing to sell off our future of local control and self-determination. So, Troutdale residents, what does it mean to be a city in East County? We can't afford our police department. We're going to merge it. Multnomah County. We can't afford to maintain our parks. We're going to give up our parks to a Parks and Recreation District. You need to ask yourself these questions, and you also need to ask yourselves, why isn't the Troutdale City Council putting the money where the essentials are? Why aren't they prioritizing the services? It seems like, hey, can the budget actually afford the City Council? That's about it for the topics today. These have been on my mind for a while. I want to thank the crew tonight, Frank Martin and Russ Wagner. They're doing a great job in there. Frank is also already waving at me. She's saying, you need to talk longer. I want to thank my wife. She brought us all food tonight, and I appreciate that. If you have any comments or suggestions about the topics we've talked about tonight, you can email me, info@eastcountynow.org. You can also post comments on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com East County Now. And we also have a website, eastcountynow.org. But if you really want to address comments about these issues, or you have some ideas for some new shows, email me at info@eastcountynow.org. You know, a lot of these things people don't really think about that often, you know, priorities and spending. But I would just hate to see, our town go down the dumps because we don't prioritize things. Thanks for watching this show. We'll be back in January with another show. Again, Rob Canfield. Thanks for watching.